So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And as you can see, we've got 3 people on the screen today as opposed to 2. And we'll let you know why that is in a moment. But beforehand, I'm going to let you guys, this could be one that if you aren't watching it live, you probably won't. It'll be one of those ones that people would say, do you remember the time that X happened? And that X thing is going to be, do you remember the time that Neil shut up and let the other 2 boys talk more than he did? Because I've got a bit of a sore throat and I can't not have a voice for the next couple of days. So I'm slugging away on the hot whiskies here. It is the Nightcap podcast. I'm drinking a nice hot whiskey here. And I'm hoping I'll have another one served into me soon in the middle of the podcast. So the 2 boys are going to take center stage. Well, I say that, but you know me, I don't keep my promises. But as I mentioned, we have the wonderful Paddy, who's over here. Looks like I'm punching him in the head in my screen anyway. But underneath us, we have a wonderful Liam Mernagh. And Liam is the chairman of the Qatari Lions Aston Villa Supporters Club. And Liam has been out in Qatar for the last 7 years. And I'm not going to do the big intro for you, Liam, when you're here, because you're big enough and you're bold enough to be able to do the intro yourself. So take it away, Liam. Tell us all about, I suppose, number one, how Aston Villa are considered out there. And number 2, I suppose, really, how did you end up in Qatar?
Yeah, so myself and my current wife now were in London at the time, and we were kind of sitting thinking we're not making a whole pile of money out here, and we're kind of just working to live. And we had a couple of friends who were teaching in kind of like Dubai and Abu Dhabi and a couple of places. And a mate of mine said, well, you know, why don't you come to Qatar? So we kind of looked down the Dubai route. We kind of looked started very late. And kind of seen that all the kind of good jobs and stuff that were going. So we kind of had a little look at Qatar and kind of, it's one of those things where like the stars all align, and there was a new school that was opening up, and the head teacher was Irish, and everything was starting off very, very small. A couple of other Irish teachers had joined as well, and everything just seemed to kind of be perfect. We both got a job in that school, and we kind of just went at it from there. We kind of got really, really lucky, and this is our 7th year out there now, and absolutely love it. And I'm planning on spending a couple more years there as well. The whole kind of Qatari Lions thing was kind of all a bit random. I felt like I was the only one that was out there and was watching the games. And then there was another guy that kind of joined the school who got chatting to him, and I think he had an Aston Villa pin on him, and got chatting to him. We said, we'll go watch a game together. And funny enough, the first game that we actually went to see was the Birmingham game where Grealish took one in the back of the head. And it was one of those funny instances where we were going over to watch it in the place that we watched the games, and it was closed for some reason. One of those things that happens in Qatar, things just shut down, no one tells you anything. So we went back to my apartment, the TV wasn't working, so we were sitting around hovering around this little mobile phone watching the game, and all of a sudden it kind of flashed in as streams tend to happen, and we see Jack on the floor, guys are giving pelters, we've no idea what's going on. And then it all kind of came to light. And then that same year, or maybe the following year, 2 more lads joined. And I was like, geez, you know, it'd be great to just set up a little group, and got chatting to Mark Forrester. When I actually kind of searched the page to see that there was already a kind of Villa Lions over here. But it was a guy called Mark Forrester who's actually over the Dubai Lions now. He had kind of set it up and had left, and no one had taken it over. Got chatting to him, took over the Twitter page, and kind of the rest is history. And we've kind of got about 35 guys in the WhatsApp group at the moment. We've got 2 girls that are in the group as well. We've had a couple who have kind of moved on to different places. One guy was in Ireland, is on his way to New Zealand now. One guy's moved to Hong Kong, but they've all kind of stuck around the WhatsApp group and joining in the banter and stuff. So yeah, the WhatsApp group's kind of hopping at the moment with different people trying to meet up in different places, and different photos and videos going in of different people at different games. So that's kind of where it's kind of gotten to. But yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind.
And would it mostly be expats that are part of the club, or would there be is there an appetite amongst the Qatari natives, I suppose, really?
I wouldn't say for Aston Villa in particular. There's guys who are very aware of Aston Villa, but there is a massive love for football over there. Maybe the standard of the teams that are there aren't anywhere near obviously the English standard, but that love is there. We'll go and watch our games. We've got two places where we'll watch our football games. We kind of, for the home games, we'll go to the Curry House, and for the away games, we'll go to the Shamrock, which is an Irish bar. But again, in the Curry House in particular, you'll get a lot of Qataris that will sit in and kind of just watch the games that are on during the day and just take everything in. Obviously, when they hear a couple of cheers going on and jeers, they'll stick their heads in, have a look and hang around, have a conversation with lads. But there's a massive appetite for the football in there. The stadiums some of the stadiums were quite big before the World Cup was announced. So, like Al Sadd, for example, is a very big stadium. They've had like Xavi playing there. Which one of the Andre Ayew's out there. We've had there's a lot of big players have kind of come out and that's what the kind of Qatar has tried to do. They've not tried to they've got lots of big players here, not just for show. They're kind of trying to get the standard of football to be higher because a lot of the Qatari national team, their players are playing in the Qatar League. So they want that standard to be raised so they can kind of compete at that level. So there absolutely is the appetite for that. And I remember going to one of my first games was an Al Sadd match, and you've got this really strange atmosphere where if a referee makes a bad decision, we'd all shout and jeer. They've got a paper in their hand that they throw on the pitch, to show their disdain or show their kind of celebration. And then at halftime, the guys come along and sweep that away, and it all starts again. So it's a very, very strange kind of and different one. But absolutely, there's a lot of kind of excitement around the football over there at the moment.
Yeah, and you mentioned that was going to be a question of mine. Are these players that are coming into the league having that desired effect? Like Santi Cazorla is there at the moment. He's with Al Sadd, I think, as well. But then again, the Al Sadd management staff are all Spanish as well, from memory too. So there's that influx. Is it having the desired effect, or is it kind of just show ponying and really just like how am I going to put this? Is it just trying to drop a couple of people in here? Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think obviously Qatar is very showy as a nation, and that's what they're absolutely trying to do with the World Cup. The stadiums that they're designing, everything that they're developing is all about being a bit showy and trying to kind of match a lot of the stuff that's happening in Dubai at the moment. Now Dubai's kind of gone very Western, but I think the signing of Cazorla is always a massive one. They had Gabi that came from Atletico as well. But yeah, I think at the same time they are trying to raise the standards. They've got the Aspire Academy and stuff that's happening over here, which is kind of seen as like the pinnacle of the things that they're trying to achieve. Tim Cahill's the academy director, and he's doing a lot of stuff with the youngsters that are coming through and trying to blood into the national team. So I think there's definitely a little bit of both going on there.
So you said you've been there for 7 years, and I also said I wasn't going to do most of the talking. So Paddy, get a couple of questions ready. You said you've been there 7 years. Obviously, that means, so doing my quick crude mathematics, the tournament was announced for Qatar in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So that
it's way before that. 2010, wasn't it?
Was it 2010? Was it?
Yeah,
2010. Yeah, they've known for 12 years. Yeah.
Have they? Oh well then.
That was the big bombshell, wasn't it? That he announced two in the one go. That he announced Russia and Qatar in the same day.
That's true. Yeah. That is true. Yeah. But like, I suppose you've been there I suppose realistically you've been there for the 7 years, and how have Qatar, I suppose, geared up for this? Has there been massive infrastructural change within the country, all geared up for this World Cup? And will there be a tangible legacy, I suppose, realistically from the infrastructure and so on? Because we know these big events, sometimes their legacy lies dormant, and at the risk of alienating people here from London, but some of the event statuses in London are now just growing weeds at the moment. You see it in Sochi in Russia, you see it in Tokyo and Japan as well. So it's not just in London, but will this have a legacy within Qatar? Because it's certainly going to have a legacy outside of Qatar, I think, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've still got plans for a lot of the stadiums that they're absolutely going to use them. I think they've got the Asian Games host. I think they're hosting that coming up very soon. So they are looking to host a lot of events, and I don't think Qatar plans on stopping with the World Cup. I think they want to kind of have other events that are going to be hosted in Qatar. Now, there's one of the stadiums, which is the 974 stadium. Now I need to kind of fact check myself a little bit, but it's called 974 for a reason. So it's actually shipping containers. So the outside of the stadium is built from shipping containers, and it's like an ode to how they kind of use the port to kind of ship things in. That stadium's been taken down and it's been shipped off. So the containers, I think, kind of go on back to being containers, and I think the seats and stuff are getting donated. I think they're being donated to Africa. Now, again, fact check myself on that one. So that is something that they're kind of looking into, as in maybe the stadiums that are 40,000 might be reduced down to 20,000, and that they will donate the chairs and some of the things onward. So they've looked into that kind of stuff. Absolutely, Qatar has had to have a massive kind of overthrow of the infrastructure. They've had to, the roads are kind of still being manufactured. They've had to do a lot of that over the last couple of years. The metro wasn't in existence when I landed into Qatar. That's kind of all just happened as well. The railway systems, that's all kind of come in, and Qatar is kind of still developing that. There is more plans for things to happen in regards to that. I would say that's been one of the things I was most impressed with. I was at a game last night, so I was at Denmark, Tunisia last night, and on Netherlands, Senegal. They've been very, very organized in regards to how they've wanted people to kind of arrive at the stadiums. So they've encouraged a lot of the residents to drive to the matches, and then they want a lot of the tourists kind of going down through the metro. And again, they've been very good with that. So when you get your hire card, which is what you need to have your ticket on it and your ID, it's free travel on all the metros to get to wherever you need to go. So I drove there as a resident. It was handy for me to do that because my wife's pregnant at the moment. So we drove to the games. So, thank you. So we didn't have to kind of do an awful lot of walking. But again, we had guys there that are directing us. They've all got lights. You're being very, very much guided exactly where you need to go. So what would normally take me a half an hour to get to one of the stadiums took me 40 minutes. And then there was a 20-minute walk. So, I mean, that's very, very achievable. As I said, I think maybe, again, I'm throwing out all these things and I'm going to check and make sure that I'm absolutely accurate. I think
no, Liam, it won't be the only non-accurate thing. Like, I just said that they were awarded the World Cup in 2016, Liam. Can't get less accurate than that.
But
going back to what you were saying there about the stadium being dismantled, I looked into that. Is it 974, 972, whatever it was called?
974, yeah.
Yeah, and I had seen the pictures of the one with the containers on it, and I was going, that's just weird. But apparently that was earmarked to be dismantled and sent to Northern Ireland to build a national stadium.
Right.
And they went ahead, because it was so far away, they went ahead and they did the work in Windsor Park. But apparently they were going to do it on the outskirts of Belfast, which would have been mad altogether to have a stadium taken apart like Lego and or an IKEA piece of furniture and moved like that around the world, which in itself would have been great. It would have been nice to see it happen. But like what Neil says there about the velodromes and stuff in London that are just lying dormant. It's unfortunate that there's so many stadia there now in. For Irish people, Qatar's the size of Wexford, isn't it? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, I think it's Cork and Kerry. I think is the size of Qatar. But I think Wexford is the if you were to kind of plot where the games are happening.
Where the games are happening, yeah. If you were to leave the stadium furthest away from each other and drive, it's only an hour. That's which is mad to think that there's all those stadia in such a short space of time.
Yeah, I actually looked at it because the England-Iran game was on in the Khalifa Stadium, which is only half an hour away from the Al Tamama Stadium. So I was kind of trying to punt and think, could I actually go to the England-Iran game and make it in time to go to the next game? Now, I probably would have had to leave maybe 15 minutes early to kind of beat the traffic and get on the road. But I actually think I probably could have done it and been pretty safe and make it for the game.
This is a question probably for the chat, and you guys will keep us honest in this one. Is this potentially the smallest place to ever host a World Cup? Has to be.
Yeah.
It is. 100%.
Has to be comfortably, like when you think about it, comfortably the smallest place to ever hold.
What's the situation with tickets? Like, I find it frustrating to look, and it's no slight on Qatar, with that many games going on, with such, you don't have everybody loving football there, I would imagine. So to see the empty seats at the World Cup is a little bit disappointing. I know as the games go on and the big games come around, we'll see full stadia, absolutely. When we get into the knockout stages, I'd imagine. But how easy is it to purchase tickets? Like, could you have rocked up and bought a ticket like for those games that weren't sold out?
No, so they've got a system where it's called the Haya system. So basically, you have to your ticket has to be registered onto this Haya app, which is linked to your ID. So it's actually a funny one. There's a couple of lads who are at the moment trying to do a bit of a kind of a bit of Del Boy actions on it. So say, for example, if I've got a ticket and I'm the main person who buys the ticket. So let's say I want Neil and Paddy to come to the game. I can buy the tickets under my name, and I can allocate my tickets to your name. Okay. Now, I can change your name several times. I can put my man in it, put my dad, right. But I can't change my name. So if I want to change my name, all the tickets are gone. I can't.
So so the original purchaser can't change. So it's like a season ticket, essentially. It's like if you have an Aston Villa season ticket, you can change the name on the ticket. You can get that assigned to somebody else so they can get access, but you can't take your name off the ticket.
Yeah. I think what they're trying to basically do there is they don't want the black market stuff going on. So where I basically want to change to someone now, and there's been people arrested in Qatar for basically trying to do shady deals. So like me trying to sell it to Paddy and saying, well, listen, Paddy, it's going to cost you £1,000, and you go, well, I'm going to report you to the authorities, and they go, oh, and this isn't, I think we've all seen the news and stuff, when Qatar says it's going to do something, it's going to do something. And there is absolutely, among residents anyway, there would be that fear factor of, selling tickets for absolutely extortionate money for fear of being caught, or, and for residents anyway, that's a deportation thing, I would say.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we don't need any more Irishmen getting caught up in ticketing scandals, do we? After the alleged, we have to say alleged, I think, over Paddy I. Although I think he might have been, and what was his man's name, Jonathan Mallon or something like that. I can't remember. Were those two guys that were ushered out in Rio?
Right.
Anyway, so just stay away from the black market, Liam. Stay away from the black market. We don't want to get a bad name.
You mentioned there's an Irish pub. Is there many pubs? Like, can you go and get a beer, or is it hard to get into places, or what's the crack?
No, really, really simple. A lot of the places. So there's certain parts of Qatar that would be dry. So, for example, the place I went to last night was called Education City. So that is absolutely completely dry. There is no alcohol there anywhere. But like where I live on the Pearl, so literally across the road from me is the Hilton Hotel. I can go in there, have a beer. It's called the Hudson Tavern. And the Mulberry, and I can just literally go in there, have a beer, no problems. Don't need any special permission or anything like that. Now, if you want to buy beer for the house, so you have to go to somewhere called the QDC, which is the Qatar Distribution Center or something. So if you want to buy pork beer, then you have to go to this center, and to basically get permission to go to that center, you have to have a letter from your work to say that yes, we agree that you can go and get this. Wow. Yeah, okay. It's massively.
That was my next question. You can't exactly nip to Tesco and get a box of beer, and is there limits on what you can buy then when you go there?
I think it's something like 20% of your salary. So if you're earning, per month. So I can't. There's not going to be too many people that are going to be spending that amount. You would find people will do runs. So I'll go and I'll be like, Neil, do you want something? Yeah, get me a case of this. And then I'll get it this time, and then you might go and get it the next time. So you do things by appointment. It's pretty simple. There's a lot of Irish there that miss the old rashers and stuff. So there'll be a run done for the sausages, and kind of everyone kind of shouts what they want. But it is massively expensive. It was maybe 2 years ago they just randomly announced on the day, 100% sin tax, and they literally doubled the price of everything. So a bottle of vodka I think went to something like £70. Case of beer. Very expensive. I think maybe 50, 60 quid. Now, I'm not a massive drinker anyway, so I mean, again, fact check, but I think you're talking maybe 60 quid maybe for a case of beer.
Jesus. And how is that in relation to the pub itself? What would you expect to pay for a pint there?
I mean, you can get it as cheap as £6. There's lots of happy hours that are going around. The two pubs that we have for the Villa games, they do a 20% discount for us on food and drink. So again, you get deals in those places, and a lot of the guys that are around will sit in the same pub, and you kind of get to know the owner, and then you kind of do deals with those guys, and they'll kind of sort you out. They'll give you happy hour prices where maybe they're not giving it to other people. So, if you want to go and spend £12 a pint, you can absolutely go to those places. I went with a mate of mine, and I happened to go to that place across the road from me, and it was a guy pulling Guinness, and it was £12 for it. And you're always very nervous when you see someone serving Guinness, and they pull the glass and they leave it down, and you're like, oh. And you're paying £12 for a very
doesn't travel well, Guinness.
No.
It doesn't fit. It never has. That's why they've got the extra foreign stout.
Yeah, you can get really nice Guinness over there, but you can't. It's very hard to get the pours. The guys who just slap it down and half fill it, and don't. Some guys will just fill it the whole way to the top. So you've got to be very careful where you drink your Guinness.
Mentioned as well at the start, obviously there's an influx of different fans, and look, when you I suppose when you talk about those kind of Emirati Middle Eastern states as well, there's some of them you mentioned have been westernized, probably more so from the point of view of tourism in and out, and would be tourism hotspots. Obviously money would flow in and out of a lot of those western places, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, so on, that you've mentioned previously. With regards to Qatar, I would imagine this is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, influx of tourists that has come to Qatar at a single time. Probably outside of something like maybe a Formula One event. I think they used to have a Qatar Grand Prix or something there at one stage. But how I suppose, it's kind of the hot topic at the moment. How has it actually been received in reality that everybody is descended upon Doha and so on during the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, the Qataris want to showcase their country, and they're a very, very proud country. And there, you see the police that are there, and when they're escorting in, they are full of smiles. They want to meet, they want to greet, they want to see happy faces. There's a kind of the media's got lots of different stuff out there, whether it's the Irish media, whether it's the British media. There's not this idea of the Qataris are sitting there waiting for you to do something wrong to pounce on you. They're absolutely wanting to showcase what this country has, what they are as a nation, and they want to showcase the football and the World Cup and show that it is something serious, that they want to take it serious. From me being there at the games, fans seem to be absolutely really enjoying themselves. I don't think it's been as big a deal as people have said about not being able to get beer at the stadiums. I don't think, most people are kind of accustomed to that anyway. There's not a lot of places you can kind of get beer in and around stadiums, kind of that impact. And anyway, you're only, because you're so close to everything, you're 15 minutes away from a pub if you want to get to a pub. So yeah, they're very, very happy that's happened there, and they absolutely want to show what they can do.
Do tourists obviously don't need to go to the QDC that you were mentioning to get beer or whatever? Like, if they wanted to go, or would they need to have some sort of visa or something like that to say, yeah, we want to go, we want to stock up on our beer? And this might be an impossible question you may not be able to ask. What would be the situation there if they wanted to do a bit of bush drinking, or well, they wouldn't be able to do that, but drink in the hotel room or whatever the case may be?
I actually don't even think they can, because they haven't got that letter. So you have to have that letter that gets you in. You get a special card. Okay. I mean, what you could possibly do is, if I've got a couple of mates coming in, I can go and sort that out, and we can drink in the hotels, and we can do that at the house. Yeah. There'd be a lot of gaff drinking for kind of the European guys. A lot of people are coming over to see mates, so they'll have all that sorted. But again, people don't really want to drink in the houses. They want to go to those fan zones. I think most people that are going out, well, I have heard of expensive prices. I think someone said it was £8 for a gin, and then you had to spend an extra bit of money. I'm not sure what the price was to get the mixture that goes with it. But again, most people.
That sounds like Dublin, Liam. That sounds like Dublin.
Temple Bar.
Rick in the comments there said he paid £15 for a Heineken at the Marriott. So
yeah,
ouch.
No one said the Marriott is a great place anyway. The Marriott's right beside the Shamrock. You can get kind of happy hour deals to get in there. The problem is that I will absolutely say there's been a lot of greed that has been shown by a lot of people. I seen things online, whether they were true or not, that there was certain places that have got cabanas that can hold 6 people at a time, and when there's no games going on, it's a 6,000 Real minimum spend, which is about £1,500. Now I'm not sure that's in euro, probably 2,000 euro. Yeah. How 6 people are going to spend €2,000. Add that up now to, you know, was it 10,000? I think for if you're having a cabana during the matches. So again, you're talking, you know, it's £2,500. What, 3,000, 3.5. So yeah, there is places. If you want to go and spend that crazy money, you can. But I think people have gotten wise to the places. There's WhatsApp messages going around, going, this is the happy hour in this place. This is doing this deal over here. I seen someone put up a message on was it on Facebook. So the Irish Harp and the Sheraton are doing a deal where it's £80 in, but you get vouchers that basically cover your beer. Now, yes, it's not free, but you're still £80, not a massive amount, and you can get quite a lot of beer with those vouchers.
I saw that online as well.
15 quid a pint. I think I do them a bit of damage there.
Yeah. Well, it's like they were saying that like it's like 6 of them went in. They all paid their €80, but they were kind of going. I'm not sorry, it was 4, and they were saying each ticket was like a round, and they had like 6 or 7 tickets each. So they were kind of going, you know, that's not bad. That's 21 points. Or it's 28 points between the lot of them. You could do that, you know, each. So you could do a bit of damage on that, you know. So it was, it was something. But yeah, that does make sense. I had a question there. It's got out of my mind. Paddy, have you anything that's...
Tell us a little bit about the experience in the stadium. What's the atmosphere like? What are the Qataris picking a team and getting behind them, or is it mostly their own fans that are there? Like you said, you were at Holland and Senegal, which was probably the brightest of what I've seen. You know, with the color of the fans and you know, all the bright orange and bright yellows, and it was probably the most colorful game. Did it come across that way in the stadium? Was the atmosphere good?
Inside the stadium, I found it was quite flat. Now, outside, the Senegalese guys are absolutely bouncing. They had the drums. They were stopping in pockets, and people were taking videos of them. They were very, very happy to have pictures taken. They were just, you know, 100 mile an hour bouncing around. When you kind of get into the stadium, and I'm not sure exactly what the capacity is. Maybe it's 40,000 in that stadium. And the atmosphere kind of went a little bit flat. There was seats that I would say in that game that were empty. I mean, I'm going to speculate. I have a feeling that maybe a lot of the Qataris maybe have got the tickets for the games and then maybe aren't showing up. I think that's why we're seeing some of the empty ones, or maybe they've got something sorted for a mate and then that person hasn't shown up, because there's absolutely demand. The WhatsApp groups are hopping all the time. I've got spare tickets for this one. I know a friend who's I'm not going to this one, and they're trying to get names changed across the tickets all the time to try and get to those games. So that's the only reason. Now, I went to Tunisia and Denmark last night, and it was one of the best atmospheres of the game I've ever been at. Now, I don't know whether Denmark have travelled well to this game or to this tournament, or maybe they got lost in the sea of red. I know they've kind of been a little bit against the stuff that's going on in the World Cup, but the noise from the Tunisians was absolutely insane. They had this one song, no idea what they were singing, but they literally on repeat constantly. The guys were getting up, they're shaking the scarves around. I was chatting to a mate of mine. He was saying he's been to some of the kind of their games, the African games, and they obviously bring massive passion to it. But yeah, it went from 15 minutes before the game to 15 minutes after the game of absolute noise. It was absolutely incredible to watch.
Tunisians are great. I was actually in Tunisia for a game before. I think I told you that story, Neil, didn't I? I ended up in the King's box. All hell broke loose, but I'll tell that story another time, maybe off air. But they're great fans, great color, great atmosphere.
The great thing I say about going to the games is you're seeing people coming in lots of different jerseys. There was people there with Argentina jerseys there yesterday, Mexico jerseys. So people. This the way that I know we were talking about the ticketing system. The way it kind of worked for me, and I imagine for most people, is you kind of apply for as many tickets as you can get. And the issue with it is if you get all your tickets, you have to. And I think that was the same, because I applied for tickets for London. If you get all those tickets, then you have to pay for them. You can't go, I'll discard that. When a mate of mine got landed with a massive bill because he got all of his tickets, including the finals, and I think he got the run up of all of England's games the whole way to the final if they go there. But yeah, so that's why people then are able to kind of transfer the name tickets. But you're seeing fans from all over the world kind of meeting in stadiums. And absolutely people shaking hands. You know, the Holland and Senegal game, guys kind of having friendly conversations with each other, jeering each other on. You know, when there was a missed opportunity and stuff. Really, really friendly atmosphere. No, I've not seen any hostility. I've not seen any fights or arguments. You know, what you would normally see. You know, at a lot of games, even Villa games. You know, fights among their own fans. You know, when there's difference of opinions. So, you know, there's not. I've not seen anything of
tempers fray at games when there's passion involved and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, a lot. I have from. I mean, the games that I've gone to yesterday was at 4:00, and the game before was at 7. I've not seen any drunken and unruly people. You know, and again, a 7:00 game gives you lots of time to kind of be in the pubs if you want to get there early and go. Not seeing any of it. Not seeing any sloppiness. So the atmosphere has been really good. And for me, getting there, as I was saying to you, was really, really helpful in the sense that I could just drive there. It was so well organized in the sense that you were directed exactly where you were to park. They have people dotted the whole way from the car park to the stadium, telling you exactly what direction you need to go, telling you, you know, there's people there helping you with the app, because the app works off Bluetooth. So as I was saying to you, you've got your ticket registered and your ID, and as you approach the stadium or as you approach the gate, it automatically kind of scans your ticket for you, so that you can kind of you can automatically go into the stadium. So really, really well organized.
Almost it's ticketless and barrierless entry, really. Essentially.
Yeah. So you're not having, they've got the police who are there doing all the checks and security and putting your bags through. So there's no huge big build-ups trying to get in. Again, it's all those stuff as well. We were listening to it when the England game, and Gary Lineker stops and he says, you know, there's guys outside who've been queuing up for 2 hours. You know, we're hoping these guys can get in. And we've got our guys in the ground going, I left my work at 1:30 and I'm in the stadium at 3:00, and there's been absolutely no issues. So there is that propaganda that is coming out, and don't get me wrong, we all know the stories that are out there in the media, but I think in regards to like there
are things. There are legitimate things I think that everybody should be railing against and are railing against, I suppose, realistically in the Western world and so on. But there are other things and that's okay. And look, I'm going to get up my high horse here now for a moment, from my high horse here in Galway in the west of Ireland. And I'm going to say, you can have a discussion about the negative, you can have a discussion about the positive, and you can have a discussion about what you really love about this World Cup. And the positive may be very small, maybe a very small drop in the ocean, and that's okay too. With the absolutism, I think an awful lot of saying that, okay, if you disagree with this part, then you're a hypocrite for watching the World Cup. It's okay. People can feel that way if they want. 100%. I have no problem with somebody thinking that I'm a hypocrite, because I know that I finish a hard day's work and I turn on the TV and I go, like, I'm delighted I watched Canada playing football just now a couple of minutes ago, because it was like junk food for my soul to be able to watch Jonathan David, to be able to watch Alphonso Davis, to be able to watch your man Alistair Johnston kick fellas up in the air for half an hour without getting a yellow card. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to go to jail. Never mind get sent off for this game. And and for 42 minutes, Canada should have been like 4 goals up, and it was brilliant, and you were on the edge of your seat, and like if it happened anywhere else in the world, there would have been 6 billion people, well, outside of Belgium, cheering on and saying this is a great spectacle, and then Belgium scored or whatever. So look, I suppose there is give and take in it as well, but as I say, like you mentioned there, if the events are being well run from that point of view, and if there is a positive from it, I think it's okay. It is okay to talk about that too. Absolutely is.
Yeah, Liam, there's 4 Irish guys in a car, that have a big bet on that they can get to every one of the games, and they've got tickets for every one of the games. They got into. They've had no problems at all. But they only got into the game tonight on 80 minutes, whatever happened on the way. So they got the goal and they got into the game. So the bet is still on, and that just shows you what the infrastructure is like, number one, and plus how small an area they have to cover, that they can do 4 games in a day twice, and only miss one of them. Well, most of one of them anyway.
And the only thing that will stop those guys is just the kind of the traffic side of things, because there'll be I was looking at going from Khalifa Stadium to Al Tamama Stadium, and you're talking, if you don't leave early, you're going to be leaving with everyone. You've got to walk maybe 20 minutes to get to your car. You're then going to get stuck out in the traffic that's kind of leaving, although it's quite free moving, and then you've got to get into the next stadium's traffic that's getting there and then walk 20 minutes. So, I mean, I can go from Khalifa Stadium to Al Tamama Stadium in, I think, 11 minutes. So it's really, really close.
Yeah.
They're absolutely doable. So it's just
but Liam, everybody in Qatar drives Lamborghinis, yeah?
Yeah. I have my own Porsche.
I've seen that on Top Gear or somewhere.
Yeah, but lots of SUVs. You'll have seen that picture maybe at the opening game where all the SUVs are arriving into the stadium. But they have to have SUVs. You're out in the desert.
You're in the desert, exactly. Yeah, you're in the desert, and that's right. Let's talk. Let's have a little chat, because that game with Canada today, and obviously the Saudi Arabian game against Argentina, and we've had Japan, or Celtic B as I was calling them today, have caused massive upsets, in this World Cup, and we very nearly had obviously Australia taking the lead. It does seem that there's a lot of smaller teams, not smaller teams, but lower ranked teams waiting in the grass for some big European teams coming in here, and some European teams and South American teams are behind the 8 ball so far. But let's have a little discussion, I suppose, about really some moments that you guys, the book, as Dan, if you do, says there, the bookies are having a good couple of days, the really good couple of days. I rinsed them on day 1, but and on day 2, but not so much after that. But talk to me, Paddy. I suppose I'll start with you, Paddy, first. And I know that you've watched limited amounts because you've been flat out in work. But I suppose what has been kind of like what have you seen from the standard of football that's been there at the moment? And obviously it is a spectacle of football. It is the showcase event of football, and I think it's kind of caught the kind of the collar of some people pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, I suppose from our point of view is normally these games are played in the summer when a lot of people will be much quieter in work. Now we're heading into our busy time where everybody's trying to get finished for Christmas and get stuff done. So everyone is busy. So it's hard to watch all the games at this time of year. So what I've been doing is recording them, and if something happens, I'm fast forwarding through and look. But I think there's a lot of countries there who we would have expected to be getting good results, and they're caught a bit flat-footed because it's mid-season. I think that's probably a lot got to do with it. There was no real lead up to the competition. The teams weren't long enough together. Like if you see,
can I pause you for a moment? And sorry, I know you were getting into a flow there, but why mid-season? You think about some teams play summer football. And I know it's because the Scandic teams or whatever play southern northern football, but are summer football. And the reason for that is so they can compete in the early stages of European football. You'd think that would ring true in a tournament like this.
Well, you see, what I maintain is that those guys who their season finished much earlier have more time together, like a normal World Cup. So if you imagine there's about 2 weeks beforehand where you would normally all be, you'd have a week's holidays, and then you're into 2 weeks of preparation for a World Cup in that country, acclimatizing, getting yourself ready. There wasn't much acclimatizing done in Qatar because we were playing matches up until the week before. So that's what I think has caught them a little bit flat-footed. And I think when you look at Argentina getting caught badly by Newcastle yesterday, it was just bizarre to watch. But that's what I'm thinking. Those guys are coming out of European football. Saudi Arabia are well used to that hot, humid weather, and they were just like a train. By the time the second half came around, I thought there was no stopping them.
Liam, what I suppose yourself, you obviously a massive highlight for you. You mentioned seeing the Tunisian fans and so far. Have you watched many of the games on TV?
So it's been tricky for myself because if I'm going to a game, I'm normally leaving watching a game so I can get there early, and then vice versa. I'm getting back late, so maybe missing the start of the next one. So I've seen bits and bobs of it. I think Paddy's right. I think they're kind of getting caught out in the sense that they've not had that kind of time together. But I think it's adding to the spectacle. And I generally kind of think that maybe the standard of the teams isn't great. I mean, I've been listening to a couple of podcasts in regards to a lot of the international teams missing that kind of cutting edge number 9 that just isn't there. And those, you look at Germany there, we're trying to deploy Havertz there, and he's, I don't think he's massively comfortable, and you're depending on him to kind of send you through. So there's going to be opportunities there for people to catch someone on the hop. I mean, I think the big surprise was obviously Saudi coming back from being 1-0 down, where it's a little bit easier. Even was it Japan? Japan were
Japan
down?
were 1-0 down too. Yeah. It could go in the penalty, and then bang, 2 subs come on in.
And plus they had an early goal disallowed as well, so it could have been even better.
Yeah.
Correctly, I might add.
and what you said there, Liam, is very, very poignant. And it's not only poignant for international football as well, but I think it's poignant for football in general at the moment, whereby there's been a lot of snobbery with regards to centre forwards recently. I would even say so much so, probably even going back 8 to 10 years, I think, around European football. The development of footballers, development of centre forwards just has never, it's been absent, completely 100% absent, because it's a case of, he only scored 9 goals, he didn't get into double figures, which is like there's so much, there's how am I going to put it? Like there's strikers are having to move around an awful lot more now. And unless you're considered a world-class striker, people are not taking chances on you at the ages of 27, 28, 29. And there is a dearth of strikers. And when Aston Villa were linked with the likes of Luis Suarez, albeit a spurious link in the off-season, I was kind of saying, look, guys, who do you genuinely think we are going to sign to come in and play a striker that's going to be, we know can come in and do it in the league, albeit for 40 minutes or for 60 minutes like a Luis Suarez? The strikers aren't there. The last good striker that was out that was playing, that was probably available and we knew wouldn't be moving on, was probably the Dusan Vlahovic, a fully formed striker I'm talking about now. And I'm talking about centre forward specifically. Now, there are players coming up, and once again, I'm on my high horse here. There are players coming up. Luis Openda, who's moved recently, who came on for Belgium today. He's going to be a really, really good striker, I think, in time to come. I think Jonathan David, who missed a couple of chances tonight, really good player. There are players coming up here. But what's happening is everybody's trying to snap them up really young, not giving them any chances, and then they're flying out the door for less money, or else they're sitting on the bench and only getting 10 to 12 appearances a year. When you see people, then you see other players there, like who Spain didn't start a recognised striker as such today. They kind of did, but they had the likes of Alvaro Morata on the bench. Alvaro Morata has played Champions League football for like consistently, and yes, he came to the Premier League and he didn't light it up, but he's gone and he's lit it up for teams in the continent as well. So what I'm trying to get at here is that the game of football needs to really get back to basics in a lot of areas. The money side of things, buying players in, there's more turnover happens. I would say myself, there's more turnover that happens in the striking positions than happens anywhere else in the field. I've no statistics to back that up, and I'm very okay with having egg on my face. I'm very okay with that because I just pulled that from the top of my head. But it seems like strikers aren't given a chance, and then it also seems like the fans will think a striker is poor after 6 months of a bad run. So, and you're seeing this in this tournament now. The likes Germany don't have a recognized striker. Havertz, I said today that if Havertz had 10% more heart or 10% more belief in himself, he'd be a superstar, but he's playing with the handbrake on for whatever reason, and he's done it since after his second season with Leverkusen. It's like if somebody said something to him and he hasn't been able to shift it from his head because he's lost that conviction, absolute conviction. And you see that in players as well, and you see it throughout these teams. So, like, England are blessed to have Harry Kane, absolutely blessed to have Harry Kane, because, you see Ireland were blessed to have Robbie Keane, a proper centre forward, a real good player. Once you lose those, you lose an awful lot of an international team. So that's my sermon for today, and I apologize for taking so long.
Big talking point of the last few days has been the extra minutes added onto the extra game, and I'd asked the question there, how you guys feeling about the extra minutes? I'm going to take this one because I have a lot to say about it. I think it's great. I think it's great for the game. I think it's great that players are being called out for rolling around on the ground. So if they're going to be added, if you're going to be doing what Emi Martinez has done in the last few games, they should probably start bringing that into all levels of football, because it's the only way they learn. And something major is going to happen. The board is going to come up with 10 minutes or 12 minutes or even 15 minutes as it was yesterday. And something major is going to happen in that time. And it's going to stop it. And that, to me, I think it's important that somebody makes a stand for it. They've done it at this World Cup. I hope all the leagues follow suit. But as we know, that's not always the case.
Paddy's just looking to get more value for his season ticket. That's all he's looking for. If he can get 15 minutes injury time at the end of a match, then he's making money on that. That's...
You know when it gets to 89 minutes and you're bursting for a wee and it goes up 15 minutes, you could actually go at that stage.
But I suppose the knock-on for that is that obviously, as Liam mentioned there, the infrastructure is probably built for getting around Qatar easily. Like, you're in London and a game goes over by 15 minutes and the officials or the powers that be have trains laid on, and next thing all of a sudden they have no idea whether it's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of a delay. That's a massive knock on to an infrastructure kind of operation system, I would imagine. That's not for us to sort out. I personally couldn't care less about that side of things, but I would imagine that there will be infrastructural issues or reasons, and most likely financial reasons as to why that won't happen. Betting markets, statistical markets. Someone brought it up to me today. I was chatting to one of to a guy via DMs today that I talk an awful lot about statistics to, and he said, like, if this comes in all over the world, the per 90-minute statistics, which teams very much go on and like can buy and sell a player, they're blown out of the water. There's no standardization of statistics then. And I know statistics isn't everyone's bag, and this is only just a bugbear for me, but there's a big knock-on effect to have that amount of added on minutes, because you could have somebody during the course of the season that actually plays maybe 300, 400, 500 minutes more than somebody else, although they've started the same amount of games. And so there's financial implications, I think, across the board. I don't know will players feel good about it, and I think a players' union will be formed pretty quickly.
We saw in that game where I think, was it the England game, there was a huge amount of one of the halves, and a load of players went down with cramp in the injury time. So players will have to adjust for that, and their training games will be 55 minutes a half.
Well, even Paddy, contractually, the extra minutes, players will turn around and start protecting their pockets as well with regards to that. So I think it's a good idea for a World Cup. I absolutely do, because like I will never forget the Israeli goalkeeper against Ireland, who shithoused from about the 18th minute onwards against Ireland in that game. Yeah, I do that exactly. Like in international football, you can kill the game. International tournament football, you can kill the game. When you keep teams honest like this, you can't do it. And fair play, the likes of Saudi Arabia in this game, they held out for that extra 15 to 18 minutes or whatever it was against Argentina, who should have blown them out of the water, but they didn't. And that was a success story for international football. But whether it comes into the club game, just with the amount of additional cash involved in it, and also the infrastructural areas around the game for a 38-game season, I would like to be a fly on the wall to hear what the actual conversations are with regards to that, because I think people's true colours will come up very quickly in those conversations.
We just have an awful reputation, though, of footballers rolling around on the ground. That's the first step in rooting this out. Really, that's the way I see it happening. And when I saw the board going up, I went, "This is great. This is good for the game."
But I think probably 5 minutes in bin. I think 10 minutes in a game of football is probably too long for a sin bin. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm being a bit too but I think you've got a specific sanction for diving, and I think referees should be prepared to give that out a bit more. I think sometimes a yellow card is harsh. I certainly think a yellow card leading to a red card is harsh for a dive. Yeah, we don't want to see it, but I think it's harsh. I would hate one of my players to get sent off for a dive. But I think maybe 10 minutes in a sin bin situation, put it this way, I think it would be a lot better resolution than VAR at the moment, because there would be, like, if it's a dive, it's a dive. There's your 10 minutes in the bin and you're down to 10 players. But once again, I'm after hot whiskey. I may not be talking any sense.
Did you have any of those situations where in the games you watch, Liam, were the crowd baffled by what was going on, or?
No, I think everyone kind of seen it, because I mean, obviously, in the Netherlands game, Klaasen's goal I think was 90+9 when he scored. So, but there was an awful lot of time when they were down on the ground. So I think people kind of just you've got all those windows now as well of the substitutions and so many people coming on. By the time it takes them to get off as well, I think what will probably happen Isn't it Clattenburg that is trialing the 30 minutes a half with a stop clock? I think that's.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he's doing something on that one where they counted the amount of times, the minutes that the ball's actually in play, and it was like 56 minutes or something that the ball was actually being kicked around in the field. So I think they're doing 2 30-minute halves with a stop clock.
Okay. I noticed as well when they're putting up the statistics, Neil, it was always the percentage of who had the ball, and then there's this little bar in the middle where the ball is in contest. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
I love that because like what I want with statistics, and it's a very fair criticism, not criticism, it's a very fair point a lot of people bring up whenever I do my statistic boards for players, and they say, yeah, but like, why don't you show all the statistics? Number one, I don't have a page big enough, and you could be rattling off numbers, and I 100% know that I pick the numbers I think transcend across everything and give you a good cross section of it, and that's fine. And the reason I'm talking about this is I'm rejigging my numbers at the moment. I've gotten access to 2 different statistic websites. One I should have access to, and one I shouldn't. Maybe I should stop talking about that, but it'll be very similar to what we have. But I was just trying to think to see what were the best. But on the statistic point of view, Paddy, you mentioned that you could talk about somebody having a fantastic game, or you could talk about a team being more fantastic than the others. But last year, I remember Aston Villa were panned for having the ball in play for the least amount of time. And I think that's an important part. It's an important contextual piece as well to kind of bring in, because I think it's actually going to be a tactic going forward that teams keep the ball out of play. Because if it's in the stand, it's not in the back of your net. And yes, it's crap football and it looks bad and it lessens your chances. But if you're a counter-attacking team and the ball is in row Z, like, you have more of a chance then to get your players back into position. A throw-in comes and then boom, you hit the team on the throw, or you hit the team from a corner. So, it's a statistic, and I think it's something that teams need to look at as well, how long the ball is in play or is contested.
You also have the situation, and I looked at it, I think it was today, there was a penalty awarded. It was 4.5 minutes between the whistle going and the penalty being taken.
That was a joke.
That's nuts, like. And it's not even the fact, like, they jog over, they look at it on the VAR, then they jog back over, they give the penalty, and there's someone in their face. Why is there someone in their face if he's had the option of looking at it back? That needs to be stamped out. That needs to be a yellow card offence. Then why does the referee have to tell everybody the rules of the game before the kick can be taken, putting the pressure on the guy who has obviously got the award of the penalty? And it's just madness. If the players don't know they need to be outside the area, if the goalkeeper doesn't know we should be on the line, shouldn't be playing.
It's of no concern as to why what the rule is as to why the penalty was given, to the players. Look, I've looked back at it. The penalty's been given. We can sort this out afterwards. Like, you're not going to change my mind. You can stay here roaring and shouting at me. Yeah. It's not like and
seven lads sitting in their equivalent of Stockley Park have told me to go and look at this. I've looked at it. I've given it.
And why it was a penalty.
Yeah.
Today as well. But the thing that would annoy me there is that if Alphonso Davies had picked up the ball from the spot and walked out and stood at the halfway line, and then the referee makes his decision for the penalty, and the referee's going around talking to everybody, and Alphonso Davies takes his time to get to take the penalty, I can guarantee you, above all else that will happen in the world, is Davies would have gotten a yellow card for time wasted, which is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers when the referee takes 6 minutes or 4.5 minutes or whatever it is to make the decision in itself. Alphonso Davies should be given as much time as he needs, obviously within reason, to compose himself, put the ball down in the spot, and recompose himself and pop that ball in the back of the net. Now, it was a crappy penalty, and we can all talk about it, but the referee was going around playing musical statues with the guys on the edge of the box. Yeah. You blow the whistle if they encroach, fine, let's get back, yellow card, whatever. You blow the whistle if they encroach again, fine, yellow card. But the penalty kick taker loses the advantage in that situation, and he needs the advantage. Once again, high horse, and I'm stepping down from it now again.
Villa have had 2 penalties this season, and both times somebody else has stood over the penalty spot with the ball in their hands and then handed it to Danny Ings.
Aston at the time. Genius, yeah.
I was at the Brentford game, and I watched Ashley Young, and he was actually bouncing the ball in the spot, and I said to Stephen, this is very strange that he's going to take this penalty. And then right when the referee had everything sorted, he pops the ball into Danny Ings' hands, penalty dispatched, happy days. I think that's the way forward. Stop all that. You take the pressure off the guy standing there with a ball in his hand, wondering, how long is it going to be? How long is this keeper going to psych me out? So yeah, it's a bit of a mad one, but it's something they need to stop, because 4.5 minutes between a penalty being awarded and being taken is nuts.
One thing I'll say, Paddy, is in the stadiums, it hasn't been well communicated about the VAR checks. So like there was whistles going on. There was guys kind of arguing as to whether they were going to check it. I think there was a possible penalty for Tunisia. No one knew what was going on. Tunisians are all booing. There's nothing up on the screens. And even like in that Canada game today, there was one where I think it's Witzel kind of puts his hand in his back, and like everyone's like, what's going on? The referee's standing kind of waiting for the play to go on. Everyone's whistling, everyone's jeering, and then it looked like the fans almost kind of got what they wanted, and then the referee put it to VAR. But I mean, in that stadium, it seemed to be that VAR was communicated. But in the 2 games that I was there wasn't one sign that went up in any of those games to say that there was a VAR check for anything.
Interesting.
There was also one today where the referee blew his whistle and went to look at VAR. I didn't think they could do that. I thought they had to wait for the ball to go out of play in case he wasn't going to overturn it.
They did it in the Argentina game as well, and it had gone back like 5 passages of play, but the ball got into a neutral area as such, and then he blew the whistle and he walked over. I think it might have been after a corner, and the ball had gone back out to the middle of the field, and then the centre half had it, and he was like, okay, lads, right, probability of scoring a goal here is nothing. And then they went away and he checked it then and gave the penalty to Argentina. My memory is, that's what strikes me with my memory in that one. But I must say that like some of those tweaks, as you mentioned, Paddy, are welcome. Like the goalkeepers having to be on their line and stuff for the penalties. You're seeing that being implemented now. It's great. The only other time I've ever seen it being implemented was when that poor Irish under 16 or under 18 goalkeeper was sent off for like this is the stupidity with those rules. Like there should be different kinds of cards for sanctions for gamesmanship and non-gamesmanship and stuff like that. Sent off, and Crescencio Somerville, I think it was, or maybe I can't remember who it was from the Dutch team, slats the next penalty because there was random guy number 2 in goals because they couldn't even bring on a sub goalkeeper because they're in the middle of the penalty shootout. So some fella has to stand in. And that's obviously being facetious to the team. That Irish team were brilliant. The names of people just escape me at the moment. But like that's the kind of nuts decisions that we're getting at times from referees in these situations. But I'm liking that with the goalkeepers. I'm liking the fact as well that a penalty for Argentina. There was discussion between Souness and Roy Keane about whether it was actual penalty. He grabs him around the waist. His man had a run on him. You can't do that. You could, if you kept your hands out there and you could chest bump him all you want. Do that all you want. I don't think that's a penalty, but you can't grab your arms around somebody.
No, look, it cleans up the game. Absolutely. That's what we want. We want to see, like, scoring from a corner now is nearly a dying art because fellas are wrestling you to the ground. You don't score many goals from corners. It's proven. Yeah. It's a statistic. So, cutting that out is a good thing. So fingers crossed it'll, as I said, like all the other rules that are good, if you bring them right across FIFA, except for Denmark because they're leaving FIFA apparently.
And more, apparently there is a cohort of about 10 European teams that have said, no, we've enough of this. We've enough of this crack. So we'll see if they go through with their bluff, but or if they call their bluff, should I say? But look, that is that. Guys, we're nearly on for an hour. That was one of the quickest hours I've spent. Genuinely, that was great, and I really enjoyed it. You've given us lots of information about Qatar, Liam. And before we leave, I want to give the stage to you once more because I just broke my enforced rule of not talking an awful lot because the soapbox came out a couple of times there. But tell us a little bit about the club, or tell us about the club, Liam. If somebody is in Qatar, if somebody's thinking of moving to Qatar after this, if there's opportunities to open up for people based on this World Cup, and they are Aston Villa fans, where can they find you? Who do they get in contact with? If somebody's going out there on a jolly for 2 weeks, obviously they're going to want to maybe get in contact with you guys to let them know what the lay of the land is, what the do's and don'ts are, so that they don't look, unfortunately, I wouldn't like to spend a night in a Qatari prison, like, you know. So, what's the do's or don'ts when you get off the plane and things like that? What's the best way to kind of contact you guys?
Yeah, I think when any of the social media pages is absolutely fine. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. I kind of run the Twitter mostly myself. It's at Aston Lions, or you can find me on my own personal handle, which I think is Liam24789 or something wild. But yeah, absolutely. And if anyone is over there at the moment and thinks I'd love to get some information or find out where the cheaper beers are, or want to meet up with fellow Villa fans or even fellow Irish Villa fans, absolutely hit me a message. We've got a couple of people that are coming out from Iraq. We've got someone who's coming over from China, who are all coming out over to Doha. So we're going to try and get guys in touch with each other, and hopefully they can have a bit of a pint together and kind of talk about all things Aston Villa.
Excellent.
Liam, don't leave yourself short now here, because the guys on the Talk of the Trinity podcast won't be too happy if you don't give them a shout out. So do your best.
Yeah, absolutely. So
apologies.
A resident on that podcast with those lads, and poor Will's not being friends with me lately because of my opinion on Danny Ings. And we all know that Will loves Danny Ings, and I'm maybe not so much in his camp. I think if we're talking about those out and out number 9s, I think Watkins, I think, is one of those guys who could possibly do that job for Aston Villa. But that's another conversation for another day, and then maybe another podcast. Yeah. Shout out to the boys in the Talk of the Trinity, absolutely, for loaning me over.
Yeah, absolutely, and give guys a Talk of the Trinity a follow as well. I don't have their handles but there could only be one Talk of the Trinity podcast. There's only one I've come across anyway so far. So and thank you so much for the loan of the wonderful Liam Mernagh for our Qatari special, I suppose, today with regards to the World Cup. So I tried to bring it in under an hour. Actually, I tried to bring it in under half an hour, but then I got carried away. But we are where we are at the moment. Thanks so much to everybody for listening. Thanks so much to everybody for watching. I feel, as I say, I didn't think I'd watch as much of the World Cup as I've watched so far, but I've actually become hooked to certain teams, to certain players, to certain formations and so on that I've seen so far. So it's been really interesting last week, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the World Cup. I'm looking forward to the football that I'm going to see over the next few weeks as well. I must get this acting gig out of the way over the next few days, though. So if anybody's expecting anything from me before, I suppose, Monday, really, because I'm going to go hard at it on Saturday night when this is over. So it'll probably be Monday before you'll see anything from me anyway, or here on For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. But in the meantime, everybody, enjoy the football, enjoy whatever you're doing, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is thanks to Liam, thanks to Paddy, and up the Villa.
Up the Villa.